Hey, how's it going? It's been a while. I've had some things going on, personal, medical, financial, technological, just a fustercluck basically. But I was missing having a Facebook page or a WordPress account because I like to write, and I had my little Kill the Messenger page and whatever else you want to refer to it as, and I really enjoyed it. I was expressing myself, and I haven't had it for a while because I had to lose my Facebook page and my Instagram account and the WordPress. So while I've been writing, it's just been kind of sitting, and yeah, I wasn't doing this because of other stuff. So anyway, yesterday I was writing and I got to thinking about The Matrix, the first one in the series. And that came out in 1999, stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Hugo Weaving, Carrie-Anne Moss, Joe Pantoliano, and a whole bunch of other people. And it is talked about a lot online, and the places I tend to end up is where that happens. But it's only sort of a framework for what I was really wanting to talk about, because I have what I wrote here, but I'm not going to sit here and read it to you, because I think when you read something while you're recording, even if you have it like behind the camera, you kind of look like a hostage reading a ransom letter. So I didn't want to do it that way. I will just refer to it as my notes. So anyway, I got to thinking about The Matrix. And a lot of people online, as I was saying, do have the belief that we live in The Matrix. And I'm not saying that I don't agree with that. I just have some thoughts on it, and they are these. Okay, so there's a matrix that exists, and it's so let's call it a quantum computer type thing, and we're in it, and we're living our lives in it. And what I got to thinking about was why why are we living in it? I have my own beliefs about it, or I've given it a lot of thought, so I have reasons for thinking, yeah, it's absolutely a thing. But I did start thinking, for those who maybe don't have, sort of a reasoning for it themselves, I was wondering, what do you think? Why is it that we are living in this matrix, and what's it for? Why, what does it do, and what's it for, and what do we do in it, and why is that? You know what I'm saying? It's, it's just several questions came out of it for me. And so, along with, I guess I just did this all wrong. Let me start over. Hey, how's it going? This is a Spirit Tee Vee Critic episode. But actually, it's more of a Spirit Tee Vee Critic reflects on things episode, on media. And this is not meant for children, because honestly, I don't think children would be very interested in it. I think they'd be bored. And so, that's, disclaimer out of the way. And, also, I'm not monetized, so, I don't know, I'm not playing anyone's music today, so I guess I don't need to add that, but whatever. That's done. So, I started thinking about that, why is it? Why is it there? What do people think? I know what I think, but I just wondered, what do people think? And I came up with some things. It may not be what people think, but just in thinking along those lines, here's what I came up with. Have you ever seen, there's 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone, the original version that was, created by the narrator and host, Rod Serling. I believe the first season was 1959. Well, I know it was. But I wanted to kind of focus on 2 episodes of that series from that era. The black and white, actually hosted and sometimes written and or directed by Rod Serling. So the first one I wanted to talk about is an episode that was from season 1, and it's episode number 15. And most notably, the person that you'll know out of the people that were in it, who were Gig Young, Richard Matheson, nope, wrong episode. Sorry, yeah, Gig Young, Frank Overton, Irene Tedrow, Ronnie Howard, Ronnie as he was referred to then, Ron Howard. Ronnie Howard. God, you might notice that I don't have teeth right now. Like, first I was missing some in the front, now I just don't have any. That was kind of one of the holdups. But I don't want to go there about that now. I can see how noticeable it is. Well, I can see how noticeable it is, so I just wanted to touch on that. Hopefully this week that won't be a thing anymore. But I've thought that for the last 2 weeks, so we will see. But anyway, back to the cast of that episode of the Twilight Zone. And it was titled Walking Distance. And the reason I bring it up is because in it, Ron Howard, and he's notable because he's around today, alive and active in film in many capacities. I don't know, maybe he does television stuff too. Let's just say the visual medium. And you will know who he is probably. And there's lots of syndicated old shows that he was in, like The Twilight Zone, for example. So, in The Twilight Zone, it tells about, or the episode is about something that, I don't know, like, it's a chicken and egg thing for me, kind of, like, did I see the episode first, or did I wonder first, like, is the world we live in basically a toy for a giant child much larger than us? Much larger than the world. Like, how could it be a toy if it, I'm talking like a toy, for a child. So I hope you understand where I'm going with this, but have you ever wondered something like, say there's a tsunami. The kid took the toy and shook it like a snow globe and caused a tsunami to wash over. And here we have all these scientific things that are searched out and, become the reasons why this, that, or the other thing happened. But, in the realm of what I'm talking about, the child is not thinking that way. Like, I know when I had a snow globe, I wasn't thinking all scientific about what is the composition of the flakes that are all sparkly and, that's just poof. Like, it doesn't even go there. But, sometimes it can feel like the world is just out of control, and if you say you don't believe in a God or have that type of mindset about it, a religious mindset, you might feel like it's just completely out of control, out of your control, out of everybody's control, and it's just like a thing that's happening that everybody is suffering from, whoever gets some sort of effect from it that causes them to suffer, whatever let's call it a disaster may be. But, haven't you ever thought about that, like maybe as a child? I know that I've seen the theme come up in several cartoons. I'm not even going to try to name them because there's been so many, but I think no, I'm not going to do it. That's enough. And then just shows where, in the dialogue, people are talking, or a film, that comes up. And so that episode of The Twilight Zone, I think, is a perfect example of that, in a way, because in it, Ron Howard, when he was a boy, plays this psychotic narcissist of a child that well, it's his way or the highway, or in the context of the show or the confines of the show, it's his way or the cornfield or the Jack in the Box. Oh, forgot to mention in my beginning that I forgot to mention, there's always going to be a spoiler. Like, this is a show that was aired for the first time in 1959, but it airs still on the Sci-Fi Network today, and someone born, 10 years ago is likely to have seen it or to see it and might not know, what the story is with the show or what it's going to be about. So, there, spoiler disclaimer. I don't think, like I said, this is going to be too boring for a child to watch, I think. And it's not meant for children. But, in the show, like I said, like, if you don't do, like, if you offend this kid's sensibilities in some way, I think his in the on IMDb, he is, Ron Howard's character credit is Wilcox Boy, and I haven't watched the episode in I don't know how long, but it's just stuck with me, since I'm thinking about it still, and not just like last night when I wrote what I wrote that I'm just talking about right now, but often, like I don't think that's a coincidence. Anyway, there is a notable person today who is very narcissistic and acts out and lashes out, and boy, if you don't do things his way, it's the highway or the poor house or the unemployment house, or you got to go get a new house because you're getting death threats because of his followers. I'm not naming any names, but he's a certain person that seems to have a problem with postnasal drip and may be a little deaf because I'm not going to say, I don't know, maybe it's talking for that guy, but for me it's yelling. So you can make your own decisions on who you think I might be referring to. And it's just, the reason why that has anything to do with the Matrix is because it will all be taking place, like what I'm doing here, the show, what took place on the Twilight Zone show that I'm talking about, what happens in other people's lives. It's like, this is my world and you guys are all living in it, but at the same time, you all have your own worlds that I'm living in, so that would be, for me, a sort of physical manifestation of the Matrix. And so then the other episode was one called The Invaders, and that came from season 2, and it's episode 15 from 1961. And it was written by Richard Matheson and directed by Rod Serling. Sorry, it's hard to talk and think and look at notes, and sorry I keep knocking into the thing I have the camera set on, or the phone, but that's life. So the other episode is called The Invaders, and that's another theme from my childhood, at least, when I would think about stuff in that way. And really, maybe I was ahead of myself as a child with these things, because now that I'm very much an adult, it doesn't seem childish to think about. But, there's a lot of reasons that I think that I'm not going to go into, because it's too much for however long I'm going to be doing this, which is not much longer. But anyway, the episode was called The Invaders, and it mostly starred Agnes Moorehead, who you will know as Endora from Bewitched, another show from shortly after that era, but she played Endora on Bewitched with Elizabeth Montgomery and the two different Darrens who I can't remember their names. Look it up. But so it's when I was like making notes to do this, it said that the cast was Agnes Moorehead and Douglas Hayes. Now, I haven't looked at that episode either for a couple of decades easily. But I don't really remember anyone else being in it that you could see except for Agnes Moorehead and the Invaders, who, I'll tell you, in this show, came on just at the beginning of the space race, and she's a woman. She doesn't say anything. I remember thinking when I was a kid, I don't know why, there was nobody else around, so there was no reason for me to think this, but I thought she was mute. Or maybe because in the episode she does have a couple of points where she could at least say ow or shit, what is that? It's just something, but she just kind of grunted or, made like sounds like, I thought she was mute, like a deaf person mute, like she can't speak. Or you don't have to be deaf to be mute. I learned that the hard way once. But mute, where she couldn't speak, but, maybe, I think there was like radio transmissions or something, and that might be who the Douglas Hayes was, because it would have been a man speaking, as I remember it. So anyway, the Invaders. This mute woman is doing her thing. She's making her stone soup. Like, she looked like she was living a really rustic life, and she was in a cabin, and she was alone. There was never anybody else. And things started happening, and in this era of ghost shows, as I call them, but paranormal shows and movies and everything everywhere, you would look at it in today's context and go, what the heck is going on at her house? Is it a poltergeist or, like an angry ghost or what, you don't know, or demon, there's a whole pantheon of things that could be in the whole paranormal context. But, God, and this also reminds me of something else that's recent, but I'm not going to bring it up because it belongs to somebody else. But I'll just leave it. But aliens, it's called the Invaders, so that's who eventually you find out who is invading her. But I thought it was funny because I think when I first saw it, it must have been in the 70s by then, at least. And I thought that it was NASA, And my memory says that there was something that looked like NASA, but when I was looking at trying to make my notes and looking online and, trying to get more of a information than what I could remember, the alien or invader that was pictured looked like Robbie the Robot, and our guys don't look like that. But for some reason I have a memory of a very 60s era spacesuit, American NASA, looking space person, because eventually you find out that's who the invaders are. And that brings me back around to that theme of, haven't you ever thought of, well, I in the Walking Distance episode I was talking about earlier here, it dealt with us being the tinier individuals and the force outside of us being much, much larger. In this one, she's the gigantic thing, and who's to say that, people from our secret Space Force haven't gone to some place where that's the scale of things, that's the way it is, we're the tiny things. And she was the giant, like Jack and the Beanstalk giant. Not going into the whole story, but I'm just saying, not going into the whole story of Jack and the Beanstalk, but just that Jack was, you think as you're hearing the story as a child, or maybe as an adult, I don't know, but you're hearing the story of Jack, and you think, oh, Jack's a human guy like me, so they're going to be like, I heard this when I was a kid first, so I would have been kid-sized, and Jack would have been man-sized, because Jack's mom sends him out to go do, like, adult stuff, I thought. And then he climbs up the stalk, and there is the giant, who is giant. The whole, thing with the Matrix just sent me in so many different directions, Like, I always also hit on, and this isn't out of a show, this is just out of my head, but I hit on, when you're a kid and you're, you know, seeing ants like doing their thing on their trails, and they have their ant hills, which are their little structures. And I was thinking, you know, you either see it and you make the observation like, oh, look at all these industrious little critters, and, you know, they're so organized and they're such a cohesive unit, like they're all helping each other, which, you know, now I understand in much greater detail. That's exactly what they're doing, and that's exactly what they are. They are a cohesive unit that does help each other for, you know, for the good of all. But, you know, you're either one of those kids where you look at it and you're fascinated, and you're like, what I thought was, well, look at all this stuff they're doing, and I'm so big, you know, I have to kind of be careful not to, like, step on them and, you know, screw up their deal. And, or you might be the kind of kid that comes along and just starts stomping on the line, working away, and kick over the anthill, or pour water on it, or some other a-hole destructive thing to do. You know, I was of the former, like I didn't tear up the thing, but I wasn't, you know, like a practicing Jainist or something, where, you know, I would never hurt another animal or being. Like, I wasn't that evolved as a child. I don't know why, I just didn't want to mess with them. It seemed like they were, you know, doing their thing, doing their little job, so far be it for me to jump in the middle of it and screw them all up. Pardon? But, you know, that's that scale thing. There are these tinier beings going about their business, and I'm not gonna come in like an angry giant and crush everything and screw up, you know, what we would probably relate to as generations of labor, you know, of workmanship? Sure, okay. Craftsmanship. And just work, you know. The ants and a lot of insects have a really interesting dynamic that hasn't been able to exist in the human world for many, 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 many moons. You know, the matriarchy and whole other set of things to talk about there, so I'm not going to go into that. But you get what I'm saying. You know, and they have, like, it's so simple, it seems like, but it's really complex. I mean, so many of them deal with each other through scent, you know. I mean, most of us can't hardly do more than one language, you know, and these beings are conducting complicated operations through sense of smell. It's amazing. I guess, let me see. Let me consult my notes here and see if I have anything else to say about this. Because I sure wrote like 4 pages. This doesn't seem like I said 4 pages worth of anything. Okay, here's something. That's a little music to pass the time for you. Okay, so back to the Matrix thing that we live in, and why is it there, why did we do it? And what crossed my mind was, why in the world, I could just hear people saying, I didn't sign up for all that. Like, our world is, you know, it's kind, it's cruel, it's generous, it's achingly beautiful, it's chaotic, it's all these sort of clashing structures, or I always lose my words, but there's so many things going on at any given time, and it's sort of like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing kind of thing. Like, there may be wars over here, but over here people are celebrating and having a good time, and life is beautiful. And if you've been caught up in a lot of the sort of unfun type things, you might say, why in the world would I sign up for this? I wouldn't sign up for this, but evidently we all have, and so I think it bears thinking about. Like, I have thought about it a lot and have had a lot of things come to me through various means that make it make sense. But that's for everyone, individual, to figure out for themselves. But, you know, here we are, regardless. And, let's see, anything else? Okay, yeah, here's another thing. Is it random? Any of it? Us being here? The Matrix? All of the other stuff? The kind and cruel? The beauty and chaos? Is it just random? Is there a reason? I think there is. From what I've sort of gathered up in my life, I think there is a reason. And I know there's a lot of, like, religious beliefs that sort of talk about it and give you a reason. But I remember, you know, growing up Catholic and going to church and Sunday school and Catholic school, where you go to school 4 days a week plus Saturday, or, you know, plus Sunday school and church. Did a lot of church, got a lot of theological stuff stuffed in my head. And I think about all of that stuff a lot differently now. I'm not, like, practicing any religion, you know, although I do practice a spirituality, or at least I have a belief in it. And I have a better understanding of, like, the Catholic stuff than I used to because of the stuff that I've learned and picked up along the way. But that's just me, you know, everyone's different. Everyone comes to their own conclusions and believes what they can believe, you know. But I don't think it's random. I think it might seem random to so many of us because there's stuff going on that is not attached to us, that we're not aware of because it has nothing to do with us, because it isn't us. It's like things happening in this other person's world and we're just living in it, kind of deal. Let's see. Oh yeah, well, that whole free will business. It's talked about in America's Constitution in a way, but the kind of free will I'm talking about is a whole other thing, you know. But if you are a person living in your world, but your world is coinciding with the world of somebody else's, and your worlds are sort of meshing, well, I think that's what contributes a lot to the random feeling of everything. But I don't think that random. I mean, it takes looking at it like a snow globe. Like, you have to have a longer view. You have to have the capacity to widen your... Oh, shoot. Widen your capacity, blah, blah, shoot. Your understanding, just your ability to take in more than just you, just what you can see, just what you can expect. Like, you got to think out of the box, out of the universe, practically. Out of the planet, for sure. Okay, I hope that was confusing. I hope that was confusing for you. And, I want to comment about my hair for a moment. I think you may have noticed my sticking straight up ponytail. I was going to put it right here in the front of my head because, well, what it is this scrunchie has gone around like 4 times, and that's what's holding it up. And the braid is kind of tight, but not, you can see my hair is not hard, you know. So again, it's the braid and the ponytail. I think it's funny. That's why I'm mentioning it. Maybe next time I will put it in the front. The reason why I didn't is because since my hair, I decided to grow out because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to, like, have to do a lot to it, as you can see. But since it's grown, I started putting in a ponytail, and then it broke, like, all of the front stuff. So, had I put the ponytail up here, it would just be a faux parade in the front and in the back, because it wouldn't be long enough to contain everything back here. That probably doesn't make sense either, but I don't care. I'm having fun. Okay, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope next time you see me I have some teeth in my head. Thank you and good night.